And now, in the semi-final replay against Portsmouth from the second division, it's extra time again. Venison. Martin Cool, haven't seen too much of him in an advanced position for Portsmouth. Plenty of Beresford, it's behind Whittingham, well met by Nicol. Daniel. Beresford on the way back, and quick enough to get there. He's still full of running. Really has been something of a second coming in football at Portsmouth for John Beresford, who was an apprentice at Manchester City, an England youth player, and he's causing Liverpool no end of concern at the moment.
I tell you what's helped Portsmouth as well, I know it's an unfortunate injury, but really since Guy Whittingham came on as well, he's given them an energy in their legs. I mean, Colin Clark holds the ball up very, very well, but he hasn't really got the movement that Guy Whittingham's got. And he's helped him in many respects as he came on. He's been busy, he's been alive, he's been bright.
What about the Liverpool change, Venison for Whelan?
Well, I think if you lose Ronnie Whelan, it's always a downer for you. I think he's a very influential player, and as we saw in the first game, what he's capable of doing right in the last minute of extra time. So I think Liverpool would have been depleted a little bit with the loss of Ronnie Whelan.
Saunders trying to sweep it in.
I think this is a tired-looking shot from Dean Saunders. Comes across them, and he just tries to side-foot it there, and no trouble to Alan Knight at all. But he's beginning to show some signs of fatigue as Dean Saunders.
McLaughlin, and that's cleverly played for Neil. Burns was hoping that the cross just carried a bit more weight. Mulby. Saunders can turn and take on Simons. Maybe half thought about the shot, Mulby. Not quite the zip off the ball for Liverpool at the moment. And after all that they put into the game, that's no surprise. Saunders. The sad news about Colin Clark confirmed he has gone to hospital with a dislocated shoulder. Beresford. There's the angle again that they were looking for, but Nicol well aware of the danger that Darren Anderton can pose, and he's rarely been found too far away from Anderton. And that was one change in strategy from the first game that Liverpool have stuck with throughout this replay. Saunders. Thomas. Burns sticking to it. And Daniel in quickly. Whittingham, a little give and go that I don't think Chris Burns really relished at this stage of the proceedings. His lungs are gasping at the moment. Anderton, caught by Nicol. On that occasion, Steve Nicol thought he could get to the ball, but Darren Anderton was too quick for him. And he was going to lose him if Nicol hadn't made contact. Cool. Burns holding wide on the left, getting the better of Venison. McLaughlin's into the middle, and Whittingham is there as well, with Anderton right alongside him. Three hoping to turn in the cross for Portsmouth.
But there's no doubt who started the better in the first period of extra time, and it's Portsmouth. Whether that little flurry at the end of the 90 minutes has convinced the players that they could win the game. But Chris Burns again getting forward into that advanced position.
Saunders goes for goal, and Alan Knight, who has had the domestic difficulties of his wife's illness, happily the worst he feels is over in that respect. We're all delighted to learn that today, and I'm sure she's watching avidly. Mulvey. He has got the poise, if not the build, of a ballet dancer.
But even Liverpool's passing now is looking a little bit tired. It's gone astray.
Neil came off the head of Mark Wright, very nearly for Whittingham. Mulvey. Saunders, the socks down, the tiredness showing, but the willingness is there. Saunders again. For Rush, Portsmouth appeal for offside. Linesman kept his flag down. And there wasn't an angle really for a pass there for Rush. In behind Warren Neal for Barnes.
Well, it really is a test of the fittest now. I mean, there's a lot of players on both sides look as if they're on almost empty and looking as if they have to turn on the reserve tanks to get some energy. They've had to work very, very hard, both sets of players.
But there are other ways. Out comes Grobbelaar, and, well, Whittingham got to the ball. Fortunately for Liverpool, Grobbelaar didn't mow Whittingham down and risked the red card.
The guy Whittingham's a yard away there from making himself a hero, I'm sure.
Daniel. And Saunders has been there to collect balls in midfield on a number of occasions in extra time to keep Liverpool on the move. The hunt is on for a goal that will take one of these sides to Wembley before the players have to endure, and that is the word, the penalty shootout. Great for the spectators, terrible for the traditionalists. When you think of the sagas in FA Cup semi-finals that Liverpool have been involved in, I think it was 1980, 4 games against Arsenal, a couple of them here, before it was finally settled. Venison. Thomas, can he winkle a way through? Nichols crossed into an area where perhaps he was entitled to feel a teammate would be lurking. Liverpool's throw.
I think you're right, that's a decent ball in there for Steve Nicholl. I think he's furious that no one's got in there after it.
Mulvey hoisting it in, but Knight, and no stress then. Well, the perkiest player on the pitch has undoubtedly been Beresford in extra time. Venison staking his claim. He's been on not so long. Burns up well. Beresford again looking to get Anderton in. Barnes, Thomas going to the left. Barnes taking cool with him. Still Barnes. Oh, it was deflected. Knight was going. Barnes goes again with the volley, and well, it just takes one little touch off an outstretched leg, a little flick of fate, and you're out.
And it almost came there. It was just ominous when it dropped back to Barnes. He was an excellent volleyer of the ball, but he might just produce a piece of magic that would take Liverpool through, but it wasn't to be. But he's looking tired. He's looking like every run he makes now he's taking that little bit more out of him. But he has missed an awful lot of the season.
McLaughlin. Daniel. Burns inviting the pass with his movements in front of the ball. But Daniel couldn't get it through to him. Touch from Cool. Beresford trying to get it over Liverpool now and having some success. Portsmouth have the throw, invigorating their fans again. who really couldn't have envisaged this at the season start. Whatever happens, Portsmouth can be proud. But being proud, that isn't the best emotion at the end of the night. You want the exhilaration of victory. Someone's got to have it. Rush. Still, Portsmouth strong in the centre of their defence. Remember the names, Kit Symons and Andy Orford. And Darren Anderton. Burns ploughing on. Anderton, outside him comes Neil. Anderton looks the other way for Whittingham. Neil, will he get there? He beats Nicol to it. Finds the corner off him. And it hasn't stayed 0-0 for so long through any lack of attacking effort or initiative.
No, to be fair to Portsmouth, they've attacked whenever they've had the ball and tried to go forward. It's just that for the first 90 minutes, Liverpool didn't give them much of the ball.
And I wouldn't support the view, which was floated before extra time, that Portsmouth came here to play for penalties.
No, you can't gamble on that, surely. Semi-final. I mean, there are teams that have been accused of that. But you can't gamble when you're going to win it in penalties.
I'm sure Jim Smith would feel that his team wouldn't possibly be good enough to try and do that. They've got to do it with their own strategy, stopping Liverpool's strengths and trying to hit on the break. But it's Liverpool looking to hit here with Rush. Thomas was following in well, and Alan Knight didn't take it totally cleanly.
Yeah, but I think he knew, Alan Knight, all he had to do was just stop it. There was no one coming in, he could see that. It was just dipping in front of him. I mean, he's really taken everything quite comfortably tonight. And only really been asked to produce one save of any note, that from Dean Saunders early in the first half.
And what does that tell you about Liverpool, even though they've been pretty in their play? Barnes, 3 ahead of him for Liverpool. Rush trying to smuggle himself into a shooting position. He's worked well to get the ball back. That's what Liverpool have got to do. They've got to scrap it out against the second division team. Jim Smith's proud Pompey playing for their lives here. The lucky red handkerchief is in place beneath the coat. Ronnie Moran and Liverpool don't really believe in superstition. They have a set way of doing things, and they put it down to ability. Barnes, stopped by Anderton. How is it going to be settled? When is it going to be settled? It has to be tonight.
Well, I for one hope somebody scores. I'm another one of these, call me old-fashioned if you want, but I'm not a lover of penalties. I know it makes great television and it's great drama, but games like this shouldn't be decided on penalty kicks.
For one reason alone, that somebody has to live with failure for the rest of their lives, and really the match over the spread of a game dilutes any mistakes, but it concentrates so much on them in a penalty shootout. We're coming towards the end of the first period of extra time. The two ex-Derby colleagues having to find an understanding done. They came to Liverpool to win medals and win trophies. If they don't win tonight, they're not going to get anything this season.
They've never won trophies just by being Liverpool players in the past, Mark. They've probably worked as hard as any team in the country at winning these championships, these FA Cups, these European things. They don't just come because you play for Liverpool.
Oh, and coming quickly off his line then was Knight, to the undying gratitude of Andy Orford, who rather scuffed the back pass. Ian Rush almost tracked it down. It was the last act of the first period of extra time. Portsmouth 0, Liverpool 0. And really at this stage, nothing between them.
No, that's for sure, as the scoreline suggests. But since the 90-minute mark, Portsmouth have certainly given as good as they've got in that first period of extra time.
Well, a silent prayer from Mike Bailey on the Portsmouth coaching staff.
They know they're so near. And the players are looking so tired, Mark. You just think that one goal this time will settle it.
A quick turnaround. 15 minutes to go. And Beresford looks as though he could play another 2 hours. Cool. Anderton. Portsmouth attacking right from the kickoff. And Liverpool finally do get a touch from Nicol. Neil with the throw. Cool coming to offer him something for it. It was Anderton who in the end was the target. Anderton was striking for Cole, was taking the responsibility, although it was rather extravagantly mishit, but he knows he can score against Liverpool. Saunders. Well, it was the right idea. Thomas had pulled away to the left. John Barnes is really just standing and watching at times. He looks terribly tired. Jones. Of all the players, the endeavour really is showing greatest on him, and there's a simple explanation for that: the lack of match practice that he's had.
Well, I think most definitely that's what it is. You just see there, the puff of the cheeks told us everything there, didn't it?
But you'd keep him on, rather like your best place kicker in other codes, because if a free kick materialises again, he could send them on their way to Wembley. Must be hard for Mark Walters to take, because he would be a natural replacement. But they're going with Barnes and staying with him.
Yeah, Mark Walters has scored many, many goals at this ground, and he must be walking along that touchline thinking, let me on, just give me one more chance.
Here's Whittaker going for a goal here that would have meant national headlines, and he controlled the ball rather better than he delivered it towards goal.
Well, he controls it brilliantly. David Burrows just assumes that I think that's going to go back to the goalkeeper, but he controlled it better than he shot, that was for sure. But Liverpool have dominated, passed it pretty, and Portsmouth almost break through with a long punt from the goalkeeper down the pitch, and the next touch almost in the back of the net.
Bruce Grobbelaar, who injured himself a moment or two ago with his previous kick. It's a considerable limp now. Venice might be hard for Portsmouth immediately to recognise that the opposing goalkeeper isn't 100%. Barnes, Rush, Nicol's right in there. It's back with Burrows again, and he's bundled down by the burly Whittingham.
Obstruction, would you say?
Well, the arm is raised. It's an indirect free kick. Nicol. Mulby getting the better of McLaughlin, and in the end finding the obstacle was Anderton. But this really says so much about Liverpool's season. They don't arrive towards the end of it with any great degree of continuity. They've chopped and changed. Graham Souness has really been tearing out his hair over the past few months with the number of casualties that he's collected. And even though a lot of the first-choice players are here tonight, they're not at their best. And although they will point to long periods when they were able to pass the ball around and make Portsmouth chase, they can't yet point to a goal, let alone a win.
There's a lot of players do look tired out there, but certainly what must be a plus for Jim Smith is his back four certainly don't. The four of them look lively, look alert still, this late on in the game.
Well, of course, a good number of them are going through this for the second time in 8 days, and in between, they've played a couple of league games apiece. Saunders. Will it run for Rush? It certainly hasn't been his semi-final yet.
He has found it difficult, but to be fair to Ian Rush, he's hardly had a moment or the ball's arrived at him. And there hasn't been one of those centre-halves that close. I mean, that's how well Andy Orford and Kit Simons have played tonight.
McLaughlin. It really is going to the wire here at Villa Park. Cool. For Beresford, who knows only one way to play, and that's to storm on. It's a very optimistic appeal. But it's the type of run that, particularly against tired defenders, could just do the trick. Barnes, again, at no more than walking pace in the middle. Here's Nicol. For Rush. Made himself available most intelligently for Mulby. Saunders supplying the width once more. Thomas is in the centre. Barnes has got upfield behind him. Thomas with a praiseworthy try in the circumstances. He felt a year ago the agony of losing in an FA Cup semi-final. That was at Wembley at least. He had the consolation of playing there for Arsenal on Paul Gascoigne's great day against Spurs. Daniel. Wolford rather got underneath that one. Burns, Whittingham. Whittingham chasing and hoping that those who've been out on the pitch for longer than he has might just find their legs giving out at a crucial moment. Just like that, Mark Walters is going to come on. And we wouldn't be surprised if Barnes came off simply because of the tiredness that he's exhibiting, but on the other hand, Liverpool would like him out there in certain circumstances. It's Rob Jones, in fact, who's limping, and he picked up an injury here in the league game against Aston Villa on Saturday. Might be a recurrence of that.
Well, they have a natural replacement, don't they, as well, and Barry Venison there. They can just slot in there in right back position if that's the case.
Whittingham, it got through the Liverpool ranks. Whittingham's cross, oh, and it just veered behind Burns. Portsmouth have the throw. Daniel. Oh, Grobbelaar moving much more freely now. And you wonder, come a penalty shootout, you think back to that European Cup final, of course. And Grobbelaar so distracted the Roma players in Italy with his antics. And Liverpool went home with the European Cup. Barnes, Neil in the nick of time. Nicol to Rush. Thomas. Now Mulvey. And Liverpool try to galvanise themselves again. Here's Nicol. They're doing what they were doing earlier in the game, but at about a quarter of the pace. Jones trying to quicken it. Saunders. Now, here comes the counter-attack, and Portsmouth have got the right man on the ball. Beresford. There's time here for Anderton. Burns to his left, Whittingham to the right. Out comes Grobbelaar. He's caught way out of his goal, and Beresford can't get his head to the cross. He didn't really read it right again. And here's Thomas. Like two heavyweights here, both almost out on their feet but refusing to drop. Saunders, it loops up, rushes in. Now Mulvey. Portsmouth in fact do have a player down. It's Alan McLaughlin. He's trying to get up to make the offside trap work. Could well be Crump. Thomas. Rush. Oh, mishit it. Thomas slips. And Ian Rush hangs his head. Right. McLaughlin. Barnes finding an extra burst of energy from somewhere. Saunders. He's certainly been consistent in his work rate. Nichols' cross! Oh, what a way that would have been to settle it. Rob Jones is going to be taken off now.
It's always going wide, this cross, isn't it? I think Alan Knight saw that early and caused them no real problems.
Well, somewhat reluctantly, Rob Jones, Jan Mulvey had to point it out to him that his number was up. And if it goes to penalties, maybe Rob Jones will tell you after the game that he quite fancied taking one. He seems to have no nerves at all, but Walters, of course, is a penalty specialist. So that might be in the thinking of Ronnie Moran.
It's funny because you have to do it these days, man. You have to be conscious of the fact that cup ties just possibly might go to penalties, and you really have to sort these out in training now. Listen to the Pompey fans, they're really, really proud of their team tonight. Trying to lift them that last few minutes verbally. And they're doing a wonderful job of it.
Portsmouth have given a bit of treatment to Ray Daniel. You look down the Liverpool possible penalty takers and you think of the likes of Jan Mulvey and John Barnes, who've done it so often before, Mark Walters. Dean Saunders, of course, missed one for Liverpool earlier this season, right at the outset of the season at Manchester City. But he's rarely shirked that responsibility. I can recall Ian Rush taking them in the past as well. Well, I, for one, would prefer another game, but there you go. That's the rules everybody knew at the start of the season.
Well, Ray Daniel's obviously got problems in respect that they've shifted John Beresford to left back and pushed Ray Daniel just in front of him.
Right. 2 hours at Highbury, almost 2 hours at Villa Park. And you can't separate Portsmouth and Liverpool. There's a minute left. The FA Cup has a fund of stories about last-minute dramas. Is this going to be the next one? Anderton, Whittingham and Aspinall, who's come on, the two in the centre, and the drama didn't materialise. Portsmouth, after struggling at the outset, have kept pace with Liverpool. But here's Saunders. Nicol. And Beresford controlled that very well, perhaps with a touch of luck, but it stuck so that he could steer it back to Knight.
He's deserved a bit of luck, though, hasn't he? He's worked tremendously hard, John Beresford. Up and down that left flank all night.
We go to penalties in the semi-final of the FA Cup. Jim Smith has to come and sort out who's got the legs left to try and propel the ball in from 12 yards. And wouldn't it be like Bruce Grobbelaar at a time where he's having to live with mounting criticism, and he's made some misjudgments here, but wouldn't it be like him to throw himself about now and make sure that Liverpool get through? Keeping cool for the players, keeping count for the rest of us. This historic penalty shootout about to start. Portsmouth the first to go with their captain. Oh, and he's missed horribly. A great lift for Liverpool.
It's as we say, isn't it a tragedy? Mankill decides to blast it, and to be fair, blasts it well wide.
It's sliced away off the right foot, off the outside of the boot. And Cool tries to come to terms with a penalty failure for Portsmouth. John Barnes has done it all before. His last goal for Liverpool was a penalty in the FA Cup at Crewe to complete that hat-trick. He hasn't scored since then, he's hardly played since then. And he put it to the goalkeeper's right. That's the way it goes. So, one penalty apiece, but one goal to Liverpool.
Yeah, cool as you like. Tries a little John Aldridge, little stutter, and rolls it quite beautifully in the corner.
Some Liverpool players are smiling, others don't want to look. Barnes has played his part. They were right to keep him on. Kit Simons, here's the second selection for Pompey, and he does well. So it's 1-1.
Yeah, this is pressure from a young man. He deals with it very well.
Well, this won't count if it goes in to Ian Rush's FA Cup record. He's still 4 behind the all-time mark of Dennis Law. Liverpool have the advantage. Can they hold it now? It crept in. Thank goodness Liverpool will feel for the placement, because there was no power.
Well, it's the placement that gets this in. Doesn't hit it well, look. Bobbles off the ground. The placement's so good that Alan Knight's no chance.
2-1 to Liverpool, thanks to Rush. Next to step up, the Portsmouth right back, Warren Neal. Grobbelaar pointing out to the referee, is he, that the ball isn't quite on the spot. Even if it is, it's made the referee go and look, it is. And Warren Neal just had to wait perhaps a little longer than he might have wanted. Oh, and he's hit it straight at Grobbelaar. Liverpool are nearly there. And that little touch of goalkeeping gamesmanship may well have played a part.
So many people hit penalties straight down the middle. Sometimes the goalkeepers gamble, that's exactly what happens.
Dean Saunders, who took the penalty at Derby, failed with his one at Manchester City for Liverpool. He's taking his usual lengthy run-up. How Portsmouth need Alan Knight now. And Saunders buries it.
This is a good penalty, isn't it? Runs up at pace. Every conviction he was going to score there, I'm sure he had.
3 out of 3 for Liverpool, 1 out of 3 for Portsmouth. Now their regular penalty taker, John Beresford, cannot afford to fail. The nails are bitten. There can't be anything left. And there's very little left for Portsmouth. There's nothing left. Nothing at all. In a season in which so many big clubs have been ambushed along the way, Liverpool have found a circuitous, but in the end, a safe path to Wembley, and have certainly given a great lift to Graham Souness. It came down to penalties, and there, in abundance, Liverpool's know-how was totally influential. They did not falter, and Portsmouth sadly couldn't cope, missing 3 times. Not a vintage Liverpool season. Their class and confidence dented by injury after injury, and unsettled most recently by the manager's illness. But their great competitive instincts coming good in the FA Cup. What a battle.